You recognize that music. You know it's time for Cloud Talk Live. Well, everyone, I want to welcome you back to another Tuesday. That's right, we're back to go again here on Cloud Talk Live, and I want to personally welcome you to the program. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology, and I'm just delighted that you've chosen to be a part of the program here today, wherever in the world you are. And I would love for you to introduce yourselves. So tell me who you are, tell me where you are, because if you've been around the program for a while, well, you'll know that we try to make you a part of the program, and the only way we can do that is to know who you are and where you are. I'll do my best to welcome you. There's a lot of you who do show up, so I'll do my very best, and tell us where in the world you are, and maybe a little something about yourself today. I'd love to know, favorite hobbies. What you're doing in tech? Why you're watching Cloud Talk Live, for crying out loud. We have a faithful, loyal watcher and listener base, and we're grateful for each of you. And if you'd like to get a hold of us here at Cloud Talk at the program, you can just reach out to us at the email address solve@rackspace.com. We've had several emails come in from folks over the years now. That's right. We've been doing this a while. And it's always great when we do get to hear from you. So shoot us a note, solve@rackspace.com. Well, hey, Robin from Florida. That wouldn't be the grilling Robin, would it? Oh, it'd be so exciting if Grill Girl was here. I can't imagine it. Because if it is, I need to know actually if it is, Robin, because you're going to get to pitch your program coming up at the end of October. And Sadig is here from San Antonio. It's so far from where I am right now. That was a joke. All right. As always, the audio from these programs, as well as other recorded podcasts, can be found, well, on the podcast feed. And you can find that anywhere that podcasts are found. Just look for Cloud Talk. And you can see the little logo there. You find that logo, you hit subscribe, you give us a 5-star review. If that's what you do, and you enjoy what we're doing over here, then I would love for you to do that. And thank you for it. Well, guys, as you know, the program has a few main segments, and the first one starts with really one of the favorites, and that is a conversation with an amazing technology or cloud practitioner. And I've brought along a data friend today, and I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. I have known Vikram Kosanam for a good long time, and he has been working in data for, well, a really long time. He's been with Rackspace through an acquisition for about the past 5 years and has been working in data products and data delivery for a long time. So with that, Daniel, let's go ahead and bring up Vikram to the program, up onto stage. Let's see, Sean's here, by the way. We've got to welcome Sean. Good old San Antonio's representing today. Vikram would be here, but he's off in meetings. Vikram, welcome to Cloud Talk Live.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for having me on your Cloud Talk finally.
Finally, we've been trying to pull this one off for about 6 months now, but you were so busy.
Yeah, the data is keeping me busy, so I'm glad we finally made it. I'll make it a promise that I'll come here more often going forward.
Excellent. Would love it because you are working with some incredible customers. You are doing some incredible things with data. Of course, it's our topic for today. And Ben Blancaro was on here a few weeks ago. In fact, I snipped his little section out and put it out as a clip because he makes the comment when talking about the key things about data is gold. Vikram, remember those days when what was your first job in data? Let me ask you that question first.
So I started my career, like I've been in the consulting for all 20 plus years now. But the first job that I ever did on the data was a data entry to begin with. It's funny. And then it turned into a true data analyst type of work.
Right.
And then, slowly work my way up from reporting to true data evangelist.
When you think about those early days, and by the way, I got to call out Jordan. Thank you, Jordan, for being a fan here and over at the castle. But Vikram, when you think about those early days, and I've used this phrase a lot before, is that data just sort of rode along with the application because it's what made the apps work. And I call it a necessary evil. You had to have the database as part of the configuration. And then they said, you know what, I bet there's more value we could get out of it. And along comes, let's go find some data analysts who can create some reports on that data. And now we find ourselves in this totally different world where data is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Like, data and app, go hand in hand with each other. And I'll give you a good example, right? Take Amazon product as an example, right? And
Hmm.
anyone and everyone in this call uses Amazon on a daily basis. If you go to Amazon site, when you go to Amazon site and start looking for your products, Amazon has now backend engine called recommendation, product recommendations. When Amazon really started initially, they didn't have enough backend data to provide product recommendations. So the more you use the application, it in turn improve the application. The more you start using the application, it generally accelerated the data collection, which in turn improve the application. And there are many more applications like that. Amazon is one good example. Another one is Google search. The
Right.
more users use, the more
The
the
smarter it
more
gets.
exactly.
The smarter it gets. I even think about Sean Gardner, who's an ex racker here. Although once a racker, always a racker, right, Sean? And he supported some amazing environments for us here, and now he's helping doing that over in some container spaces. But the more we think about data, and I used the joke before, the line before, that we think about data as part of the application. But what about all that other data? The data around monitoring, the data around the state of the applications, the state of the infrastructure, the state of the networking, all of that is data as well, and can bring great insights into the health, not just of the application, but the health of the infrastructure.
It definitely is. Whenever we are looking at the non-functional requirements, whenever
Yeah.
we are building the data product, right? There are three or four, or no, all in all, there are now 5 or 10 key important non-functional requirements that you need to account for
Okay.
when you are building any data product for that matter. But half of them have become moot ever since cloud is picking up, going serverless and all of that. But we still need to account for three or four key important NFR requirements as part of that. Availability, we don't have to worry about it. But reusability, the performance and scalability, and security are equally important as part of that.
Yeah. So I want to actually take it down a step, if you don't mind. You and I spend all our day inside of the tech world, and I think everybody can relate when we say, "What are your requirements?" We think about it in software development, we think about it in data projects. But define, if you wouldn't mind, for the non-developer in the room, that they may be out there, is how would you define a non-functional requirement? We can sort of surmise from what you said, but let's get a textbook definition.
Um, so how do I put it? So typically, when users have expectations regarding how well the software system
Right.
should perform in terms of availability, ease of use, speed, at which the functionalities execute, and all of that.
Yeah.
Such characteristics are termed as non-functional requirements, at a high level. And these are important for the fact that they can make or break the success of, forget about data for a second. Take any software system as an example. These basic ease of use, availability, and the speed can make or uh, break the user adoption.
Right. So true. Okay. So, enough. I almost like to call it, we call them non functional requirements, expectations. A
Yep.
functional requirement would mean, I want my input screen to follow, or all of my screens to follow this kind of look and feel that's our corporate design. Okay, cool. That is a functional requirement. But when we say we want it to be its availability, backed up, its resiliency, all of these sorts of things, then laying into the non functional requirements, expectations that the users have.
Functionality, security, unauthorized access is another way to put it. How successfully application can handle unexpected situations. All those kind of come under the NFRs.
That's right. That's right. Hey, we got to welcome Anand. He calls himself an ex-racker, but Anand, we've already covered this. There's no such thing. Once a racker, always a racker. You just don't get your paycheck from us anymore. Glad that you are here. Well, let's dig into the topic of the day. When we think about data applications, you've started it by talking about some of the non-functional requirements. But what are maybe first of all, what makes a data project different from a regular software development project, or is there a difference?
Well, at a high level, what I'd say is, the techniques to build any reliable product are the same. Whether it's a data product or the software product, the tools and techniques could be a little different, but at a high level, the steps or the stages that are that we need to follow are pretty much at the same level.
Okay.
For many organizations, right, adapting or a data-driven mindset is key. Or more importantly, the organizations are adapting the data-driven mindset, or at least having a data-driven messaging. But in the reality, most aren't prepared for the reality of what it takes to make sure that decisions are truly based on data. So having those things accounted for and think through are important.
Because a lot of companies would say, you come in as a professional services type person coming in and say, hey, we run these data projects. We help you make data-driven decisions. And all of a sudden you're offending the leaders you're talking to. What do you mean? I'm making data-driven decisions now. How are they not?
Yeah. So it's interestingly, even today, like on a daily basis, I run into these issues. In order for any organization to be a data driven, right? Teams have to be aligned about what data to be used, how the decisions are made, and more importantly, data has to be accessible, available at the right time to the right decision maker, and
Right.
and someone who's responsible. Um, you know, people have to be responsible for collecting, storing, staying accountable for the quality of the data. Quality of the data is equally important, and there's an interesting study that MIT has done. I think it's probably a year ago. Like the cost of bad data um, is costing companies like around 15 to 25% of revenue.
That's really interesting. And bad data could be defined as data that is one, either not accurate or not timely, is another one that people don't necessarily think about. Hey, we got to
Yeah,
welcome our good friend Tamers Osman is in the audience here today. Always a good friend to have on.
hey,
So
Tamer.
yeah, so let's talk about that. So when I mentioned we go in and talk to a C level or somebody in the organization and offend them that they're not making a data driven decision when they say, look, here's the spreadsheet that I'm getting my information from. Again, we can call out whether that data is accurate or not. We can call whether it is complete or not, and we can call out whether it is timely or not. So you go in, you convince them that, hey, there's opportunity here. You just call it opportunity to be better, as opposed to saying, what you've got is really not good. So what are a couple, three or four of the things that a company needs to think about when heading down a data project road?
You actually, just made a statement, and you actually made a comment on that. The first thing that organizations need to look for is identify the opportunity. And when you say identify the opportunity, the way I see it is like you need to bring product and business perspective and tech and data perspective together. And it is, and I'll tell you why it is important. I've seen organizations fail, but not doing this or not bringing these two sides to the table, and millions of dollars have been lost because they haven't been able to build a great data product. And as part of this, identifying the opportunity, right? You wouldn't believe having a data scientist serve as a data evangelist and socializing data opportunities with the broader organization is equally important. Like
That's
as of
interesting.
now, half of the organizations don't do that. Give data science resources seated at the table. I'm telling you, no matter on where they sit, within the organization on all of that, but giving them seated at the table, you will see the product and business strategy decisions will accelerate at a faster pace at that point.
Yeah, that's really that. I love the fact that you're calling out that it's not just having a technologist at the table, which is always a very good thing, but having a data scientist because they can really speak to the art of the possible of what could be done with the data assets that the company has.
And also at the same time, thinking about the future, the whole Google example that I've given before. The way I see it is the best data products gets better with age, how fine wine is. and Google or even for that matter, Amazon is a great example to begin with. And another one, you'll probably see it on a daily basis where you've been asked to set up profiles in some of the websites, and
Mhm.
if you don't set up your profile correctly, you won't get right recommendations.
That's right. Hey, let's unpack that for a second, because you say that, and it's a great phrase to say that data gets a good data project or a good data solution gets better with time. Why is that? Why does it get better with time?
So I'll say two reasons. One is, let's say, first to begin with, data product applications generally accelerate the data collection. The example that I just gave you about self-reporting, user profile data.
Yeah,
If we have limited profile data, the initial recommendation is not that good.
it's a little
But if
lean.
more you yeah, but if more users are starting to fill in their profile data, then you'll start seeing that personalized experience, launching recommendations, improving the recommendations over the period of time.
Right.
So as you see, as the data is growing, the recommendations are being improved, and all of that. And secondly, when you're building data product, right? There are one-to-one scenarios where one data backend would have one application front end, but also at the same time, there one data backend would have multiple applications on the front end.
Right.
And when for whatever reason, it could be to reduce the research costs, R&D costs, or whatever. But in having that power multiple applications, it's about building the network of shaded and all of that. But if the data produced by each of that application feeds back to the underlying data foundations,
Yeah.
that improves the applications a lot as well. And it's not an overnight thing. It has to be there. Start collecting the data so that it can get better over a period of time.
That's so true. All right, so we've given some good examples of this kind of in our personal lives. We think about Google, we think about Spotify is my best example I'll come up with, because
Yep.
one of my favorite buttons in my Spotify is Release Radar. Now, Release Radar used to not be so great because it would tell me, all the stuff that released this past week. I don't like all the stuff. I like the music I like. But the more I listen, the more I click the heart button, the more I put things into playlists, the more it knows the music that I like. So the things in Release Radar now are more directly associated with the music that I like. Now, I want to draw this into a business context first, in a second. But first, I want to say we got to say hi to Brent McKay. He's an old friend of yours. Looks like from the Databricks days. We got Kartik, who is here. We've got Michael from Houston as well. And so, guys, everyone, welcome. Glad you're part of the program. So let's draw that into a specific example. Now, this is a public case study. And now, here on the program, we're not here to sell Rackspace, but I am here to get, as much as I can, use it as an example because it's a wealth of information. We went through a pretty interesting data project a while back because we had a problem with, you guessed it, data. And that data had to do with how our customers were rating us. We use the NPS, Net Promoter Score system. And so, we had well-meaning rackers here arguing with one another about the data. Well, it turns out they both had good data. They were just different data sets. So we embarked on this project to go figure that out. Our chief data scientist went and consolidated it all into BigQuery. Public is not private information. You can read it on our website under rackspace.com/case studies. And all of a sudden, we had good NPS data. We knew what our customers were saying. Now, over time, we've taken that data and enriched it with other data sources, completely disparate data sources, by the way, that had nothing to do with data with NPS. And what we learned, what we're trying to learn more, was what was the customer's overall temperature? What was their proclivity to stay, maybe sign a new contract, or perhaps to want to think about leaving us? And so because of these 3 and 4 and 10 different data sets that we're able to bring together over time, because what Vikram said, data projects get better over time, we are able to learn more about the state of our customers.
And one other thing to add, one of I'm sure one of the issue at that point initially was data quality.
Yeah, it
Um,
was.
like you know,
Absolutely, it
co-
was quality.
yeah, and completeness and timeliness is one piece of it, or accuracy is one piece of it. But you got to think about consistency,
Yeah,
timelines and uniqueness. When I say uniqueness, is this the only instance where this information is available? From consistency perspective, is there a single source of truth? And from timeline, is information available And more importantly, is it available when you actually need it?
Yeah. And what's interesting is we're now going back to the beginning of the conversation, Vikram, around having a conversation around functional and non-functional requirements. And that's why it's so important to have that data scientist in the room, because they can help to delineate what the expectations are and what the hard requirements are.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it that would make a huge difference. Give data science a seat at the table. They'll bring a different perspective. No matter what structure you have. Give them a seat at the table, and you will see accelerated data product deployment.
Vikram, we could go on for hours. There's a lot more to unpack here, so you're going to have to come back. We are, as you know, here we are in September, and we're staring the National Security Cybersecurity Awareness Month coming up in October, where it's all things cyber. But Vikram, my challenge to you is: how does how does a data project help make a company secure? I think that would be a fun conversation to have next month.
All right, I'm
All
up
right.
for it.
You've got the challenge. Go figure out what that is and bring it back, and we'll get you back here on the program. If not, we'll continue this in November once the cyber stuff is, cyber's never done. So,
Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me here, Jeff.
Absolutely, Vikram. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time while you're out on a trip. So it's always appreciated. And safe travels back to San Antonio.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Oh, wasn't that a good conversation with Vikram? What a smart guy he is. All right, so let's progress in the program. So we will absolutely get him back here shortly. Now, folks, you can always learn more about what we're up to here at the Solve program at Rackspace. Solve is our thought leadership program, not our sales program. So if you go over to rackspace.com/solve, well, all of our information is there. In fact, we've got some really new content that's showing up there this week. We've just started the planning process for our new bit of research, which is going to be super fascinating as it takes into account what's happening really in geopolitics and finance and how that's impacting your IT plans. So that's going to be a great study. We're in the middle of all the planning work for that before it goes out for interviews of the 1,400s or some odd folks all around the world who are going to participate in that. All right, well, let's press on. That means since we finished the cloud conversation, we're off to This Week in Cloud, which is the section of the program where I fill you in on a few things that are going on in the world and why it's important to you. The first is 3 cost trends in cloud computing today. Now, this was a super interesting article written by none other than Mr. Andreessen Horowitz, and I have fast forwarded when I was just trying to scroll. Let's go back one here. Here we go. And so what goes on to talk about is that enterprise find that typically they're spending at least 20% more than what they expected to spend after undergoing a cloud project. Well, why is that? There are a couple of key areas where those costs are coming into play. First of all, they're rising because of what's going on with the economic crisis that's going on globally. Apologies if you hear the dogs barking in the background. That's all part of working from home. The second is egress challenges are absolutely impacting them. Egress, that's after you have shoved all your data into your cloud of choice, and now you try to pull it out for some reason. The egress charges are extraordinarily more expensive than sending your data into the cloud. So have a plan for that. And then lastly, end-to-end visibility of cloud environments. You've got to use machine learning to help keep those costs under control. Do you have a FinOps plan in place? If not, I would like everybody to take, once this program ends, don't leave me now, but write down FinOps.org and go watch their intro video if you want to learn what FinOps are all about. All right, so there we go. Article number 1. So French cloud provider OVH lines up diesel generators to offset potential power cuts. It's a mess over in Europe right now. You're aware of that. We know that the war in Ukraine has impacted supply lines of power. Now that is a fuel, and that is having an impact or potential impact on what's going to happen with us in tech. And specifically, OVH is making plans should they not be able to get the electricity they need to be able to power that for themselves with their own generators. Folks, everything that's going on in the world, whether it's good or bad, is either impacted by or impacts technology. So that's why we're here, to help you be smarter about what's happening in tech. Now, when we think about what's going on in tech, you saw the green screen. That was the wrong button to push. When you think about tech, we also want to talk about what is new from the cloud providers. And let's go ahead and jump into what is new from AWS, because you need to know what these guys are writing so that you can update your apps, or at least challenge your developers to make sure they're staying current in what's happening there. So Amazon Cognito hosted UI now enables users to register their own authenticator apps. Customers can now enable users to self-enroll their own SMS-based one-time passwords or time-based one-time passwords. So Microsoft AWS making it easier to use your own authentication capabilities with your own applications. Yay, AWS. Speaking of Microsoft, new from them is this is a cool one, on October 1st. Microsoft will implement significant upgrades to our outsourcing and hosting terms that will benefit customers worldwide. What does this mean? It means they're responding to licensing issues they've been sort of caught on, making it difficult for you to use Microsoft products in other clouds. October 1st, they will be releasing new capabilities, new terms there. So keep an eye out for that. And then over at Google, this was an interesting one. Google's had so many updates. They're now starting to provide weekly digests of client library updates across their cloud SDK. You'll find this across the cloud SDK. You find this across the data SDK. You find this across all of the SDKs. There are so many updates these days. They've stopped listing them in some cases individually, and now they're just grouping them into an entire digest of capability. You head over to google.com/documents updates, I believe is what it is, and you can learn all about it. By the way, if you want to know where I find all this information, it's a super clever search term that I use, and it is cloud of choice, in this case, GCP or Google Cloud space updates. It's just that easy. You too can read the hundreds of updates that come from each of the providers every single week. Well, as I mentioned earlier, of course, I don't sell anything here at Rackspace other than the fact that maybe you want to come and work with us. Hey, Pooja, glad you're here. And so that would be our Rackspace job of the day. Who wants to come work at Rackspace? Well, the job I'm going to talk about, we haven't talked about networking jobs very much, but we need a network security engineer 4, by the way, in the terms of seniority, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. After that, I think you land in architect land and farther off than that. But what does a network security architect do here? Well, they are expected to take initiative and advise on potential pitfalls that a customer may encounter and suggest alternatives which may better serve the stability and security of the customer solution. Security is part of every single thing that we do. It should be a part of every single thing that you do. And so we're looking for more folks who can help our customers do that. There is all kinds of other things that you can learn about from this job requirement. Just head over to rackspace.jobs. It's a third or fourth down inside of there once you click into the job listings. It is a remote job here in North America. All right, everybody. Again, everything you've heard here today is part of our Solve program. You can find links to articles, our research, the podcast. You can subscribe to the podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Please do that. And the audio from these all show up there as well, in the event you can't make the live program. All right, everybody. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. This would not be a great program if it weren't for our great sponsors over at App Dynamics. We did talk a little bit about observability without saying the word observability earlier. And one of the leaders in the market around that is App Dynamics. So if you are interested in more information about that, well, just go to appdynamics.com. Tell them Jeff sent you. Next week, speaking of amazing partners, we're not here on Tuesday. We are here on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Previous Rackspace CTO, now Field CTO for Cloudflare, is going to be on, John Engates. I hope that you will be here for that. Oh, if it's that fun music, it must mean we're at the end of the program. Folks, I hope to see you next Thursday. I'm Jeff DeVerter for Cloud Talk Live.